The news is killing you. More at 11. Do you realize that there's actually a business when it comes to anxiety? That people are making billions of dollars off of our emotions and our fear. The opposite of faith, people think, is doubt, but truly the opposite of faith is fear. Fear causes the negative cycle: avoidance, short-term relief, which reinforces our avoidant behavior, addiction, long-term anxiety growth, long-term doubt, this lack of capacity that we have. And the business of anxiety is the news, social media, people, all types of ways. They're instilling fear in you. And what happens is when you have fear, you go into an avoidance cycle, but you're also wanting more information. So we edge our fear with knowledge. And so what do? We tune in at 11 to see how it's killing us. How is our water killing us slowly? I need to know more. And they've been doing this for decades, and slowly our society has been depleted through this business of anxiety. And truly, as we look at that negative cycle, we look at the decisions that we make. And remember, going back and go into my video description, you can see blame it on the brain, but the perception, the filter, how all information is filtered into our mind is in the amygdala, the emotional center of our brain. And so we are more likely to have emotional reactions. And remember, the cognitive bias and the negative bias. That psychological phenomenon is the negative bias, that we will look at things more negatively in an effort for survival than we will to see hope and have faith in ourselves and have faith that things are going to be okay. And so as we're in this emotional place, it's filtering our mind and we're making emotionally reactionary decisions. So we emotionally reach out to gain more information from the person that is feeding us the bad information and causing us in decline. And this is where bondage truly happens. So we get stuck in all these invalid data points. A couple weeks ago, I talked about emotional regulation and the negative dynamic, how we are interacting within ourselves with the negative cycle, doing 100 times microscope on that distressing thought, feeling, and belief that starts the negative cycle, and seeing that our emotions really feeds our cognitive distortions, our invalid data points, which triggers our attachment, feeds our negative narrative, causes that filter to come on and these perceived realities to build, and then we get locked in this feedback loop of perceived realities. And that is where, that perceived reality is where the business of anxiety takes place. It makes billions, hundreds of billions of dollars a year because we are stuck in a perceived reality and we don't know how to break free. So how do we? Stay tuned at 11. No, I'll actually tell you right now, it's all about consumerism. What we consume becomes who we are and what our life will be. So if we're consuming negative information and we're consuming, how do I put it, empty information, and we're just sitting there and numbing ourselves on reels because we need to shut down in a certain way and we don't know how, all we're doing is feeding ourselves emptiness and fear. And then wondering why we look at the world through emptiness and fear, finding external validators to fill us, to keep us motivated and going, and why we feel so depleted when it comes to actually looking at ourselves and following our own values. And so what we want to do to break free of this loop is stop avoiding it. Faith, fear, doubt. Faith, fear, doubt. Faith, fear, doubt. When we start building that sense of capacity, we're grounding neutrally, mindfully in a present state. We're sitting with the discomfort. We're not avoiding. We're sitting with this discomfort. We're finding our truth, radical acceptance, truth in the present and here and now without judgment. And then we're leaning on our valid data points, whatever that is. If faith is a spiritual connectedness, psychologists say that, having a presence of a higher power helps to mitigate anxiety and helps to find kind of structured in the chaotic world, and that's where you lean to. You go back to that. If you find that faith is only and solely within yourself, then you find the faith within yourself. You lean on your principles to take that one action step towards a positive place. And in cognitive behavioral therapy, we do exposure therapy. And what that says is that, you come up against the things that are not as stressful, but is on a stress scale. And the more that you do that, the more the high stress things feel less stress. We're desensitizing ourselves to our fear. So the more that we are doing things, putting those processes out that emulate the things that we lack in and the things that we fear, we're starting to lessen, desensitize where that emotional reaction is and being able to be more present with it. Therefore, we don't rely on others to give us information that we already know for ourselves. To let go of this business of anxiety, to devalue that business, is to rely on what you know in yourself. What are you doing within yourself to know that you are going to be okay? In executive leadership, what we want to do is rely on the mission. That mission will save us, right? In our business, we rely on our vision and mission because that is what is our beacon. It's what our path is to getting success. And when we can focus on that and we can believe in that and we can trust in that, we're trusting in ourselves and what has gotten us there. And we're focused on the intention of what will keep us there. Instead of finding all of this fear, this lack of faith, you have to put it out there. Because if it's not out there, then people will notice and they'll start finding information in other places. Have you ever had a high stress, maybe a merger's going down, maybe they are doing, the government and bringing everybody back to work. I mean, how much information is real information and how much information is just gossip? Because we needed information so bad, we would lean on anybody to give us something that could make us feel better and more comforted. And that's why when major changes are happening, we lean on leaders to be able to be very clear and transparent, because the information needs to be disseminated, because people are yearning and seeking for information because of the business of anxiety. So to have a sustainable mental resilience in these high anxiety places, it's important to come and ground back to you, to ground back to valid data points. Often in my practice, people will say these very catastrophic things, and it's like, well, is that real? Is that a valid data point or an invalid data point? Well, what do you mean? I feel like it's real. Okay. But if you feel like you're going to get fired, do you have a performance improvement plan? Do you have are they saying 50% of the workforce is getting let off? Are they saying what programs are getting let off? Where's your valid data point? because what you need to look at is where your agency is, not where you're losing agency. You have no control over others' thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. You have 100% control over your thought, feeling, and behavior. So choose inside, choose to follow your path and break that cycle of the business of anxiety. I am Jennifer Evans with Empowering Wellness Counseling Solutions. We have a lot of great programs for you. I have built programs for everybody in their stage of change. It does not matter where you are at. It matters that you are ready to start your journey to live a happier and healthier, more meaningful life. And let me help you. Go to the video description. There's going to be free resources. There's going to be a link to my website so you can see all the services that we offer. I just dropped my third book, Key Steps to Live a Happier and Healthier Life, Part 2, Emotional Regulation. And all of this stuff is like workbooked out over 9 chapters. So I highly recommend you picking it up. Thank you so much.